Hey folks, I'm doing a little watch party here. You want to see me on tonight's POV, Point of View, with Chris Berg. It's coming right up. For those of you who do not live in the area, do not have access to KXJB, Valley News Live, it's a local station that I have done commentary on in the past, and should be on momentarily. So, folks, give us a second here. Invite your friends if you want to watch. I gotta try and find our oh my God, did Facebook change things again? Trying to find us here. Oh, I see us. Got a good sound check. Yay, finally. This is what I was doing today, everybody. I was down at the TV station. When they start broadcasting, folks, you'll get to see it with me. Here we go.
Some big news for our egg community. Japan is going to open up their markets to beef. Also, President Trump has now taken off the tariffs on steel and aluminum with Canada and Mexico. Thus, Canada and Mexico are going to lower, or get rid of, I should say, their retaliatory tariffs on our egg products. The good news about that is it starts to sort of pave the way, open the door to passing the USMCA, otherwise known as NAFTA 2.0. So that's some good news there. Some not so good news, and in my opinion, I think that's why some of this news is breaking on some of these other trade deals, the fact that it is now being reported that the trade talks with China are stalled. So we'll see how that plays out. We do know that coming up in the end of June, President Trump is going to meet with President Xi in Japan, as well as President Putin as well. So wanted to share that with you about the ag situation and some other breaking news. The DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, announced today that right now, every single month, they are putting 40,000 illegal immigrants into the interior of our country, folks. I'm sure you've heard the story as well. They're now looking to transport some of these people all the way over to Florida, because right now Texas, Arizona, the southern border is just so flooded. They do not have the capacity to hold all these illegal immigrants. Thus why President Trump announced his new immigration plan yesterday. If you watched the entire speech, which if you haven't, please do so, it was phenomenal. It was an outstanding speech about immigration. But you saw there, he gave a little shout out to Senator Lindsey Graham, because he's working on kind of a mini plan. President Trump called his the big, bold, beautiful plan. He said, but hey, Lindsey, you're working on sort of a mini plan, but to shore some of these asylum rules up as soon as possible to stop this vacuum from the Northern Triangle that is coming up through Mexico. So we got a special show tonight, because just recently, Cindy Gomez-Schempp from a Mexican Crossing Lines was down in Tijuana and San Diego at the border herself, interviewing people and just seeing how overwhelmed, how overloaded our southern border is. So, Cindy, welcome back to Point of View. It's always great to have you here. We'll get to your story in a moment, but I do want to get just your take on the fact that right now we have over 40,000 people a month that we are putting into the interior of our country because they're crossing our border illegally.
Yeah, I mean, I almost thought it was a greater sum than that, because I've been watching the border, and the flood of people is constant. I mean, it's actually in Mexico, there are states that will not take any more migrants. They're just saying, we don't have the resources. We don't want them coming into the state. They're blocking roads and entry points into different towns because the people are just sick of it.
So how do we stop? I mean, one of the things that Lindsey Graham is suggesting is, hey, look, if you're now going to file for asylum, you're going to have to do it at a consulate, either in your own country or in Mexico. Is that something that you think would have an impact? I'm not sure how much you saw President Trump's immigration plan. Is that going to make an impact?
I think that all of these measures are stopgaps for immigration reform that has to happen eventually. So I applaud the Republican Party for trying to do something like that. I don't think that the president's current plan is going to address the manufacturing sector, the agricultural sector, and the service sector, which is where a lot of these low skill, low paying jobs that we do need to fill in the United States are going to continue to have a black market of undocumented people filling. And I don't think that the president is doing enough right now to stop this loophole of asylum seekers. We know that the majority of those people will not get asylum. 87.5% of those people are already not going to their asylum hearings. So this is a problem we need to resolve.
But do you think it happens? I guess that's my thing. Right now, I don't see any sort of incentive for the Democrats to do anything to change these laws because, in my opinion,
you're right,
all they see is 40,000 voters every single month coming into our country.
That's not all. You know, I have a feeling that they're heavily invested in this asylum process. Do you know how much money that they are making off of each of these people?
Who? What do
Sanchez Cordero, the Secretariat of Mexico, said that she knows for a fact they're investigating the people that are driving these caravans, and she said they're making $5,000 to $6,000. The coyotes, the people that are bringing them, they're charging money to these folks.
Well, that I understand, but why would a Democrat in D.C. care if a coyote's making money?
Look at the Rapid Response Network in San Diego, the place I was just visiting. They're giving, Gavin Newsom is giving $25 million to organizations that are sheltering, processing, assisting legally all of the asylum seekers. There's money to be made. The
You're
shelters,
$25 million to shelters inside California,
just in
correct?
San Diego, yes, just in California.
But I mean, he may say, hey, look, this is the humanitarian thing to do. I mean, even President Trump, who's now hired someone via DHS, says when we transport...
It's not humanitarian to bring millions of people into this country and strand them when they're not going to be able to get asylum.
I'm not suggesting that, but as we know, immigration is federal. Gavin Newsom can only do so much, so maybe I'm just telling you what I think he would say. Let's talk about your trip specifically. You went down to San Diego and Tijuana.
Yep.
What did you see? And as we've heard before from many people, I think even the Democrats now are starting to admit, yes, there's a crisis, but for a long time, they didn't. Would you say, hey, this is a crisis based on what you've seen?
Yes, and it's a manufactured one. It is inorganic. And one of the things that I was there to investigate was the drivers of this, because I believe that these lawyers groups that are encouraging people to come and seek asylum, telling them you have a right to seek asylum when they know that the vast majority of them do not qualify, are what I was trying to find out more about. So I went to the ABS conference, the Association of Borderland Studies conference, and on April 25th, I had the opportunity to stand in front of Nicole Ramos, one of the lawyers for Otro Lado, and ask some questions. A San Diego resident that was there also got to ask a very important question, which is, are you practicing law within Mexico? Are you qualified to do that? Do you have certification to do that? And she said, no, we don't do that. And I think you have the sound clip of that.
If we have that, let's roll it, Josh.
This is for Nicole. I think you had said that you lived in Tijuana, correct?
Yes.
I was just wondering if you can practice law in both Mexico and in California.
And with regard to my license to practice in Mexico, I don't practice law in Mexico.
So it's not considered legal advice, then?
Right. It's legal orientation and know your rights training. We do pick up some cases, but once people are in the U.S.
Okay. So you're licensed in California then?
I'm licensed in New York, and so because it's federal law, then you can practice wherever.
Okay.
Okay, I see that and I go, all right, for the person sitting at home, why should they care? Why does that matter to them?
Well, Nicole Ramos, and I think you have a picture of her that I took at this conference. She is being investigated by the Department of Homeland Security. She is also part of the lawsuit against Trump right now with the ACLU. And she is lying about practicing law without a license in Mexico. She definitely is. Her organization is. In fact, after I left that conference, I went into Tijuana and I interviewed a man that told me that not only did he get legal advice from her, but he was guaranteed on his initial visit, he was guaranteed to get asylum in the United States. All he was asked was one question: do you have an American citizen family member in the United States? To which he answered yes. And then they said, you get asylum. So
I want to back up because a couple things jumped out to me. I want to get to that story in a moment. But you first started this. I said, do you see it as a crisis? You said yes, but a manufactured crisis.
yes, it's inorganic.
Who's manufacturing it?
The people that are organizing and funding the caravans.
But that's no one knows who that is. Like, what is going on?
Pueblos Sin Fronteras is already being investigated. The
By
name
who?
is by the Mexican government, by Interpol,
Can
by
we
the
trust
Department
them?
of Human, the
The
group.
Mexican government?
I don't know that they're invested in stopping this caravan migration, this mass migration. I don't believe that the government of AMLO is doing enough to stop it, but I believe that Interpol, the Department of Homeland Security, Border Patrol, the joint investigation that's happening with Mexico and the United States is reliable, and it is focusing on Pueblos Sin Fronteras and this woman, Nicole Ramos, and her organization, because they are driving millions of people to specific borders like the one in Tijuana. And this gentleman that I interviewed, he told me he did not trust what he was told. He didn't even go back to these lawyers because he didn't trust them. But he did show me his contract. And I think you have it. You can see clearly, even though it is in Spanish, that it says that it is a contract for legal services right at the top. And you can also see their logo at the very top. And it's redacted so you don't see his name, but at the very bottom you can see that they have a signature of one of the representatives of Otro Lado. Maybe it's a lawyer, maybe it's a volunteer, but it says clearly at the top that this is for servicios, legal services. And then you can see that they say for the costo, that is completely free.
But maybe they've got Mexican attorneys down south of the border that they're using.
No. And
do you
she
know
said that? She said that in the question she was just asked. We don't take clients until we're here in the United States. Obviously, that's not the case. But you want to know something that's even more disturbing? Along with that contract, they get a file number that's stapled to a sheet that they can log into and check the progress of their asylum case. And what it says in Spanish and in English is that they're supposed to destroy this only way that they have to look at their case. They're supposed to destroy this paper before crossing the border.
Why?
Like Mission Impossible style. I don't know. I guess maybe it's to hide the evidence. Had you ever heard of a lawyer telling you, here, destroy the evidence of our relationship or our case together? Because that's what that paper says.
But so even though you got that contract, let's say they prosecute Nicole Ramos, big deal. She gets disbarred. It's not going to stop these people from coming to the border.
No, unfortunately, this problem is going to be here for the next decade or so. I saw President Trump tweet that, don't get comfortable because you're going to be leaving soon. I know that Border Patrol is going to have guaranteed work for a long time. Detention facilities are going to be at capacity for a long time. New contracts, the industrial complex of prisons is going to grow over this period of time. Sadly,
unless they change these laws, right? Because then we could either deport them faster, because right now we can't even, let's say that you're an unaccompanied minor, you come up from Honduras, according to our laws, even if Honduras wants you, I can't deport you back.
You
I can't send you
deported.
back. I mean, that is insane, right? Let me talk about this for a moment with you, because I know you follow this closely. President Trump put out this merit-based immigration plan. Canada does it, Australia does it, Japan, a lot of countries do it. Winning idea?
we do it already. I don't think,
No,
again...
we don't. We have over 60% of the people that come to this country because they've got some family member here that can fog a mirror.
But see, you're talking about the difference between how you get a visa to stay here temporarily and how you find a pathway to citizenship.
Right, I'm talking about green card holders.
Right, and what I'm saying is that we already have a visa system that allows people to come temporarily for high-skilled work here. And frankly, it doesn't work very well. I think that we have to either expand the criteria, and it has to include agriculture, manufacturing, and service industry jobs, because the majority of the people that are coming to work in those industries are not covered by the president's current plan.
Well, he does want to change that. Just to be fair, he does want to expand the H-2B visas and raise that number to have more seasonal workers. Because of TV time, we have to leave it there, but thank you for the insight. We always very much appreciate it.
Thank you.
Be sure and check out Cindy's Facebook show as well. What's the Facebook URL?
88.1 FM, Fargo, Moorhead.
Awesome. It's fantastic. She's got people that are from the borders, from Tijuana, that are doing Skype interviews with her, and very insightful stuff. So we'd love to know your point of view on that. And also, as we all know, there's a big conversation right now about some of the boundary changes that are taking place within Fargo for different schools. So earlier this week, I had a chance to sit down with Brian Toy. He gave us some fascinating insight about that. But also, I think what's fascinating is he's trying to meet with Fargo school board members. Remember, they are elected positions. For whatever reason, they won't meet with them. Here's our interview.
No. Leave it.
Brian, welcome to Point of View. Great to have you here. There's a big, I'll be kind about this, kerfuffle about some of the boundary changes here with Fargo schools. For people that aren't following as closely as you maybe because you're in it, just give a quick take on what exactly is happening and what's transpired.
Well, right now there's a building usage task force that's meeting every other week to discuss, the plan was for them to discuss building use and capacity issues, but it's really become what I think is just a boundary change task force, where they're analyzing different scenarios to decide whether they're going to change the secondary boundary lines for all Fargo Public School students.
And you're opposed to this, why?
Well, when I first started looking into it, there was so much discussion about strong growth within the city of Fargo. And I looked at the company that they were using to analyze the data and give estimates as to what the enrollment's going to be from year to year. And what I found was that this company has been grossly overestimating what the enrollment's going to be. And they've been doing reports for at least 5 years for Fargo Public Schools. And every report they've done has overestimated growth by hundreds and hundreds of students. For instance, the 2014 report overestimated the 2018 enrollment by over 600 students. And so this task force right now is looking at changing the middle school boundaries. And even with that company, the RSP company's report, Discovery Middle School is only going to be 2 students over capacity in 5 years. And so my concern is, why are we doing this now when enrollment this year is down from last year? And so I've been trying to get the school board or administration to just bring accurate information to the task force. I think the task force should know that RSP's data is not accurate and hasn't been accurate.
So why are they using it?
I don't know. That's a great question. Go ahead.
What were you going to say?
I just don't think they have any other data to back up moving the boundaries.
But why not just use actual data?
That's a great question.
Okay. One of the things I do want to share is you shared with me off camera, hey, Chris, I've reached out to every single Fargo school board member, and they won't even take a meeting, respond to email. Where's that at?
Well, some will. You know, I sent a message out to the school board president trying to sit down with her to just show her the data and say, here's my concern, because I'm just going off the data. I'm just going off the numbers that I can get from the school board and what I can get from the RSP reports. And I haven't been able to meet with them. I showed up to speak at the school board meeting on Tuesday, and I did speak. I provided them with graphs with my data, but when my 4 minutes were up, they cut me off, and that was all I was able to say.
So I'm assuming, based on your answer, some of the questions that I'm asking you is, hey, why are they using this data? Why not just use actual data? I'm assuming you've asked somebody at least those questions, and the response is?
Nothing that really satisfies me. I mean, the response is, this is the data we have. We've been using RSP. We're going to continue using RSP, and they believe that the growth is going to be as fast as RSP says. Facts be damned.
So where do you go from here? I mean, I guess what's next? There's a couple more meetings still to take place.
Yep.
What's next, and what do you want to see eventually happen?
Well, what I'd like to see is I'd like to see them press the pause button. Enrollment's down this year in Fargo Public Schools. Growth has slowed. Building permits in the city of Fargo are down 40% from 3 years ago. So growth has slowed. Let's take a minute to look at our buildings and what we can do with them. There was a long-range task force that was put together that made some recommendations for a magnet school, a language immersion school, CTE, a career training center, a STEM center. We have space at some of these schools, at South and at Ben Franklin, that we could have something that kids might want to voluntarily go to that might shift enrollment around.
So let me ask you this. You're reaching out to school board members that are elected positions. Some of them are not meeting with you, taking the time to meet with you. Also recently, the school board spent $16 million on Discovery and didn't gain any more room for students.
Right. When they got approval for that $16 million remodel, the minutes from that meeting specifically said it was to address overcapacity concerns. Well, guess what? The capacity when they started that was 1,200 students. Now it's 1,100. So they actually lost 100 capacity.
But see, that doesn't make any sense. You're telling me they're using this RPS information that shows all this, geometric growth. They dump $16 million into a school. They don't account for any growth.
Not only that, they lost 100 capacity. And
So who's making these decisions?
that's a great question. There was an administration change, there's a new superintendent, and I don't know if something got lost in the shuffle. It's frustrating. I've met with Dr. Gandhi. He's very professional. He's always been willing to meet with me. But I think that administration has their course of action that they're going to take, and the board is behind them 100%. And unfortunately, it feels like to me, no matter what we bring to them, they just keep going full steam ahead with this plan.
What's interesting is we're having a lot of conversations right now about Fargo Public Schools. You were saying, hey, Chris, we're all trying to speak up. Nobody's hearing us. You see the situation with the teacher renegotiations. The person that is their new president-elect is basically saying the same thing, is, look, if you don't hear us, we feel like you're not even hearing our voice as teachers. So I don't know what the situation is there, but I appreciate you sharing the information. I know this is far from over, so we'll have you back, okay?
Great, I appreciate it. Thank
you, Brian. Appreciate it. Thanks again to Brian for that insight. I think one of the most stunning things, at least to me in that interview, is the fact that he's reaching out to our elected Fargo school board members, and they are not, at least up to this moment, not sitting down and talking to them. So please reach out to them and say, hey, look, we elected you. You should talk to us. That might be a good thing. All right, please share your point of view with us, because sticking around for feedback tonight, Cindy Gomez-Schempp from Lexington Crossing Lines. You can email us, text us, leave us a voicemail. We'll be right back.
Okay, folks, we have a few minutes here. Libby, I did get the video. I have not had a chance to translate it. In fact, guys, I haven't played for you all of the interviews I did while I was in Mexico, precisely because, as you know, I translate them right here simultaneously sometimes, and sometimes I have Duke pause it. I'm really proud of my translating skills, and I want to make sure that I give you exactly what the person is saying in those interviews, and that takes time. Alfonso Guerrero Ulloa, the terrorist, is a slow-talking nutball, because he just goes on, and he slow talks, which means, like, a 30-minute video would take me hours to translate on the air, which is why I haven't done it, guys. Plus, also, I feel like I'm going to get a brain aneurysm every time I translate what he's saying, because he's crazy. But let's see what else. Berta Aguirre from Hablando Claro con Berta Aguirre here on Facebook actually has recording from people on her to say that Hillary Clinton behind these caravans. Guys, everything I have researched points back to people connected to the Bernie Sanders campaign and to the Green Party over and over and over and over again. That's what I can tell you. That's what I know. Is there something behind that goes back to Hillary or back to the Democrat Party? I'm sure there probably is, because they're all part of the Democratic Party. And don't forget that one of the largest proponents of bringing people over the border is Gavin Newsom, Nancy Pelosi's nephew. Nancy Pelosi's nephew. Remember that. He went all the way to El Salvador to make some kind of deal down there. So, and there's a bunch of other politicians. Why is Ron Wyden attacking our Border Patrol and investigative bodies? Because they're trying to figure out if, these human smuggling operation, international human smuggling operation is involving our American lawyers and journalists, etc. Because that's what's happening. And they're also, we got Jeff Merkley, Ron Wyden, Chuck Grassley from my former home state of Iowa. And I'm like going, what are you guys doing? What's the other guy's name? Duke. Do you remember that dude's name? I can't remember his name. Y'all remember the guy that was it Rosen? I'm gonna get it wrong. I don't know about Berta Aguirre enough. We're coming right back, so here we go.
Very, very well done, and thank you for that. Welcome back to Point of View, the first and only interactive TV show here in the Valley. Cindy Gomez-Schempp sticking around because we had an email about immigration, so I want to have her chance to respond to this as well. But when he emailed the show and said, hey, if we're going to allow the immigrants to be approved to take our Americans, work on a Build America program, take American jobs, I believe we need to check into how the government will benefit off of every dollar that a person will make or redeem services, or that will be lost to some in America's, and even a past felon with no rights, that these people with 5 years, 2 rights. Basically what he's saying, Cindy, is look, if we're going to do this Build America program that Trump's talking about, and then we're going to have them go and compete with people that maybe have felons, and then with 5 years they're going to have rights to citizenship. Your response to his email?
I think you have to take it on a case-by-case basis. Obviously, we don't want people that have a tendency to be violent or to commit crimes in our country, and those people should be removed. But you are not addressing all of the people that are here undocumented, like the dreamers that still don't have a pathway to citizenship. It's like we've lost that conversation completely because of the caravans.
So, for dreamers, do you want to see them get citizenship?
There should be a pathway to citizenship
Are you
for
okay
some
then
of
if
those
there's
people.
citizenship, but then there's going to be no more chain migration with those DACA people? Because you could be talking another millions of people coming in.
Well, possibly, but I think, again, it has to be case by case. If somebody has a good reason to be here and they add value to the country, why wouldn't we
Well, I
want
think we're all
them here?
for that. Exactly. I think that's what the point system is about. So thank you for doing the show tonight. We appreciate it. We'll have Cindy back very, very soon. And stay with us when we come back. We'll be wrapping things up here on a Friday night. Please share your point of view with us. It's very easy to do. Email us, text us, leave us a voicemail. We'll be right back.
And then we high-fived. It was good segments. Good segments. I really appreciate them having me on and sharing my point of view with their audience. It was really important for me to continue to share this message that the reason the caravan is in existence and continues to have thousands and thousands of people flooding in every month, 40,000 people flooding in every month, is precisely because of the funding of the organizing by American groups, many of them connected to the Border Support Network. Folks, I cannot make this stuff up. There is another Intercept article out today by Ryan Devereaux. Same dude, same guy keeps writing these articles. And they're, panties are in a bunch because this is the headline, by the way. Border officials admit targeting journalists and human rights advocates with smuggling investigations. I told you they were smuggling investigations. I told you that it's not just Olga Sanchez de Cordero, the Secretariat of Interior in Mexico, said very clearly there is a group that is primarily being investigated, but they're also investigating all of the groups that fund and support Pueblos Sin Fronteras. Okay? Get this, folks. This article says that a group of organizations of a coalition of over 100 organizations that want Department of Homeland Security to stop this investigation. Stop looking at their computers, stop looking at their phones, stop surveilling them, stop taking pictures of them, stop second questioning them when they cross the border, stop the Mexican government from banning people from coming into their country. Are you crazy? Are you cray-cray? You're not going to stop Mexico. Mexico's going to... Mira, pendejo. Let me tell you something about Mexico. You're not going to go to Mexico and tell Mexican authorities who they can and cannot let into their country. Yeah, this article says that this coalition of people that signed on do not want these investigations to continue and are making accusations that, hey, this investigation, if you're doing this is chilling effect on legal advice, on the protected nature of that legal advice. It's going to have a chilling effect on journalism. It's going to have a chilling effect on a whole bunch of things. They're very, very scared of what this is going to do to free speech and all of this stuff. And what I found fascinating is that CARE is one of the organizations on the list. Another one is Pueblos Sin Fronteras, the main organization being investigated for this is on here, and a whole bunch of different organizations connected to abolishing the very bodies like ICE that are investigating them, that promote getting rid of those bodies, those agencies like ICE. So, folks, this article, which I guess is the ongoing media alliance between The Intercept and these Border Support Network people, Border Support Network groups, organizations, activists like the ones in the activist lawyer group Otro Lado, and is basically casting doubt on whether or not our border authorities and other investigative bodies like IHS, Department of Homeland Security, and FBI are doing their jobs correctly. And look, I get it. If you look at the history of abuse, of misuse of power, misuse of force, regulatory actions taken against bad conduct by FBI or by Border Patrol or by what have you, you can find plenty of examples of where there is definitely more reform needed, and there has to be more transparency, and there has to be a control and measured way of providing these investigations without violating people's rights or, surveilling people in such a way that violates our rights to some kind of privacy. However, that doesn't mean that either Border Patrol or IHS or ICE have acted, or at the FBI have acted incorrectly in this investigation. And in this investigation, as far as I can tell from what's been leaked to the media, from what they have in those reports, I had already singled out a large percentage of the people that are in that leaked investigative database of activists and lawyers. I had already pinned those people down. In fact, I was able to identify a bunch more of the people that are on that list because of their activities. And what I have been saying is that they're all part of a smuggling operation, an international smuggling operation. They've chopped up the job of a coyote and they've decentralized it via Occupy Wall Street. There are no leaders here. We don't know, one hand washes the other. Nobody knows what the other people are doing while they're actually very, very well organized and working in tandem. And I've seen the different parts and pieces of how their operation is bringing people in, giving them advice, giving them misinformation. Their media allies accuse the authorities of doing oppressive things to the migrants. Their people demanding human rights say they're violating these human rights, and they raise this specter of genocide, and they raise the specter of these massive abuses of free speech and of militarization of the border and all of these things, not because they're real, but because they want to use them as a shield from scrutiny, as a shield from questioning, as a shield from any kind of criticism that what they're doing while they're saying, we're being abused and violated and surveilled and investigated and oppressed and silenced and censored. What they're really doing is something much more sinister. I don't even know if I want to share this link to the Intercept article. I'm still chopping it up myself and taking a closer look at what nonsense they are putting in here. But you can tell they're pretty upset. This is my favorite paragraph. Amid the backdrop of frenzied political agitation surrounding the exodus of thousands of mostly Central American asylum seekers, CBP began investigating, quote, possible violations, unquote, of U.S. Code 1324, an increasingly favored prosecutorial tool of the administration, prohibiting a range of activities under the umbrella of human smuggling. And it says, quote, a number of journalists and photographers were identified by Mexican federal police as possibly assisting migrants in crossing the border illegally and or having some level of participation in the violent incursion events, Howe wrote. Imperial Beach Border Patrol Station agents were attacked multiple times by caravan groups on the border attempting to illegally cross. So, this is a joint investigation. It reveals in this article that Mexico is involved. Like I told you, this is not just an investigation of the U.S. This is a joint task force investigation, and it involves not just Mexico and the U.S. It involves Interpol. It involves the FBI, IHS, DHS, and more than a dozen of these alphabet institutions are involved in this. So, folks, that is going to be my screen time today. I'm sorry I didn't bring you a longer show. Obviously, I had to go prep for TV with POV, Point of View, with Chris Berg. Again, I really appreciate them having me on, giving me an opportunity in the Fargo-Moorhead region to bring the news that I went and collected at the border to more people. And how you like my green screen, folks? Isn't it nifty? Isn't it snazzy? Look, I got a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Oh, the donate thing is covering him. Anyway, we're going to have fun with this. I can't even wait to see what, we're going to be able to do with this green screen thing that we have. I suppose I could answer some questions real quick since I got all of you on here. How about that? I haven't done that for a while. Oscar told us Mexico's always had a corruption problem because of their economy. This is also true. There is a lot of corruption, and this is especially true. Okay, this is especially true of institutions like the INAMI, which is our equivalent of immigration. But the government is always tackling that. It's like saying that politicians are corrupt. Well, duh, and water is wet. Yeah, we know this. But what people are using this information for here in the United States and in Mexico that are pro caravans and pro letting this stuff keep going on is that, the INAMI should basically kind of the abolish ICE type of line of talking about what they should be doing in Mexico. In fact, in several states in Mexico, they have passed sanctuary city style laws preventing the INAMI, preventing local authorities from involving themselves in arresting or holding undocumented immigrants in Mexico. So, hey, Anthony, cuando quieras, hermano, cuando quieras, whenever you want me. I wanted to have you, the day I was talking about the drones and the day I was talking about the Patriot militia that was being attacked. And also, they're attacking you because they want to discredit you and they want to discredit Oscar's reporting. On that day, I was going to try and have you on. I don't know if you noticed I tried to call you and you are such a busy guy. I was like, dang it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to coordinate with him because I want him on. I want to be on I want to talk about this on my show. And I thought I could have you come on and we could talk about the information about, TYT, the Young Turks, and all of their involvement. Because I want the people that are down there on the border reporting the news to have the up to the minute, like, here is who is in your backyard. It's this guy. It's Luis Monsiváis is there. Mason Bobby Leonard. You know, I want you to know who these people are and what they do. So let me see. What other questions do you got? Have you ever seen the movie World War Z? Oh, yeah. That would be cool, right? I did not see Jim's post either. Any other questions for me? I'm looking. I'm watching. Let's see what we got here. Let's see. What about the Ebola cases from Africans in Mexico? I have not heard an update on that yet, but there were confirmed cases, multiple confirmed cases of Ebola. In fact, I think I reported that on Oscar's live stream when we were in Tijuana, because that had just come out. I'm going to be able to show you all sorts of cool things on the screen, guys. Y'all should be worried about those drones they have out there, because first of all, I'm pretty sure if the activists are out there flying those drones, they're violating the law, because they're not supposed to be flying over groups of people, and you're definitely not supposed to be flying at night. Also, the way in which they're using these drones is to surveil. It's part of the smuggling operation, but it's to surveil where police or militias can be, so that they can drive the traffic in a different direction. When they had them at Standing Rock, they used them to surveil the police, to find out where they were setting up, to see where the pipeline company was, to see where the pipeline security was. That way they could they could go circumvent them. That's how they used the drones back then. So I would not be surprised if that's what they're doing with the drones down there. I'm just going by my experience. Let's see what else we got here. I have no idea. I believe they are in Texas, the Ebola patients. And I believe that it's also illegal to fly the drones over the ports of entry. I can't believe that they haven't used our military to shoot them down. They should. You know what the cops did here? They shot those drones right out of the sky. They shot so many drones. Even the pilots they had oh God, it was on my show about the drones. I showed you there was a California documentary film company connected to this woman that came out here named Rihanna Larkin. Rihanna Larkin, she brought the power of Hollywood, LA, the documentary film group with these drones. They've got top of the line equipment. They were giving out drones to Native American pilots out there left and right. And then these drone pilots were all trained by Myron Dewey and this lady. She was the one really training them. The people from this documentary film company out of Los Angeles was the one that was really training all the drone pilots. But when the stories were coming out, you hardly saw Rihanna Larkin. You hardly heard the mention of this documentary film company from Los Angeles that is, well endowed, well funded, and has all of this great equipment. They basically said Myron Dewey is the drone pilot, teacher, educator, leader. He's the one training all the drone pilots, but it wasn't true. And one of the drone pilots I forgot, Duke, John Gonzalez. John Gonzalez is one of the drone pilots I did not put in that video that I was talking about drone pilots. I was just going through all of these Standing Rock figures, activists, especially those connected to the leadership at Standing Rock. And what I found was that John Gonzalez lists himself on his Facebook page as a drone pilot. So there's probably stragglers out there that I didn't mention that I forgot. But the major players that are down in Texas right now, they're all in that show. Anthony shared it on his page, and he put the information about the drone conversations about an hour in. You don't have to watch the first half, although you should, because it's pretty interesting. But They do have those. It's illegal to shoot drones down in Georgia? To shoot drones down. Okay. Well, yeah, it's illegal to shoot drones down anywhere. You're not supposed to shoot drones down. But if the drone pilots are using them to basically head clip people with, and those people happen to be cops, they can definitely defend themselves and shoot down the drone. And that's what these pilots were doing. They showed in their videos how they would give the. Remember Dean Dedman laughing about how he was going to give the cops a buzz cut with his drone?
Yep.
This is what they were doing with their drones. And they showed it on their own videos. Somebody asked on Anthony's live feed if they can videotape. Yeah, they can videotape. They can live stream with those drones. They can live stream. They can have infrared so that they can see where bodies are, the heat signature of the bodies. So they were doing that, and they were showing themselves going where the police were, and just right over their head, really close to their heads. This was something that made them laugh hysterically. They thought that was the greatest thing. So they would go on live streams and be like, "Hey, folks, the cops shot down another one of my drones. So I'm going to need you guys to send me another drone. I need you to send me another. I'm doing a fundraiser. I need another $5,000 to get a new drone." And within a matter of hours, they had the money to get a new drone. They had shipping of drones going to the camps. Many of those drones ended up getting gifted to other people after camp. Do you realize that these same drones, they took them when they were doing live streams out after the hurricane in Houston, Hurricane Harvey. Then they went to do disaster relief, supposedly disaster relief, humanitarian work in Puerto Rico. And again, they use drones. So, folks, these drone pilots are a very integral part of this operation. Let me see if there's no more questions. I think I'm gonna close out because I've had a day, folks. I'm gonna go and eat dinner and relax for a minute. Let's see. Any other questions? Please check true facts before you post. Thanks, John. I don't have a moderator today. My kids are at the Pikachu movie. I dodged that bullet. We dodged that bullet, didn't we, dude?
Oh, yeah.
You could be at a Pikachu movie right now.
No, thank you.
The only thing that sounded cool about that was that Ryan Reynolds was going to be the voice of Pikachu. But I have done my Pikachu time as a parent. When my kids were little, I watched all of those dang cartoons, and I'm up to here with Pikachu. I'm done with him. All right, folks. Thank you. Have a great evening. Thank you for watching with me on my show on POV. And we will be bringing you some more news about what's happening at the border very soon. Good night. God bless. Take care, and buenas noches.